Hello everyone. Hello. Who is ready to read a book? Are you ready to read a book? Reading a book downtown. Reading a book. Everybody's gonna read a book. Oh, everybody's gonna read a book. Oh, everybody's gonna read a book. Oh, read a book. 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 Hello everyone. Welcome to the live stream. I've just started. I'm just waiting for people to just join in. Some people they just say like, oh, I don't really know Jen when you go on live, but it's okay. You can always watch this after this is done. This is timeless content for you guys, and I'm doing that. Timeless. You know what I mean? Timeless, because today we are gonna read a book, and it's called The Anatomy, Grey's Anatomy, The Anatomy of Story. 22 Steps of Becoming a Master Storyteller. Do you all want to be a master storyteller? Well, Jen and Man is gonna read this book to make you to become a master storyteller. It's by this John Truby. Now this book, it's very well known in the industry, especially those who wants to become like a screenwriter, who wants to be a writer, who wants to just writing stories. And I think most of the people, if you talked about them, or maybe those people who are in studying storytelling, they would always have this as one of the readings. So I got this in Kinokuniya, and it's 85 ringgit. What the heck? 85 ringgit from 86 from Kinokuniya. Kinokuniya's items are very expensive, and so I don't know why, but this is a really good book, and I haven't really read this book. I always stop like at a certain part, because they always like gives you like what to do. Like one after the end of the chapter, they will ask you to do a certain thing. So let's do that together. Let's do that together. You know what I mean? You know what I mean or not? Okay. So this one we have the anatomy of story. Dia ada 11 chapter. So kita tengoklah bagaimana kita boleh menyelesaikan buku ini. Saya ingat satu chapter untuk satu stream, so kita tengoklah. Saya ingat satu chapter satu stream, so kita boleh buat 11 stream, 11 part. So kita tengoklah. So hari ini kita akan baca tentang Story Space Story Time. Itu ada berapa? 13 pages saja. So saya ingat hari ni tengoklah. Boleh selesai ke satu page? Boleh lah kan. Senang je. No lah, I don't think so lah. I don't think we'll need 11 parts for this. So I'll keep the live stream today maybe about 1 hour, 2 hours. We'll see how it goes. See how tired I become. You know, if I do 4 hour stream, nobody want to watch. If want to watch also, they will fall asleep. If want to watch also, they will split up and watch. So might as well split the video. Why make 4 hour video? No one want to go and watch one. Where got commitment? So you make it short. You make it short, people can watch. Then after that they wait do another one also, they can one. They will still watch one. So I feel if you make it 4 hours no use one lah. I tell you, why wanna go 4 hours non-stop building Legos 4 hours of Lego People also sleep already lah. Do until so late some more. What time start at 9, then end at what 1 something bloody hell You think I know life You think what? You think I not You think I have to spend the whole Tuesday just watching Gentleman You should. But come on lah, 4 hours bloody hell. Cut it short lah, 1 hour, 2 hours So I'll try to do 2 chapters today. So 2 chapters that's like from page 3 to page 38. I think that's doable. 30 pages and 35 pages. And let's see how it goes. If it's still too short, then maybe we'll capture like maybe the third chapter. But I think we'll actually take some time because I really want to do the sort of exercises that they want to do. And I think in the meantime also, like, let's just talk a little bit about what they say. So that's why it will take some time. I prepare me some green tea sweets just to keep my mouth liquefied, and some Mentos Pure Fresh sugar-free mint with green tea powder as well. You guys know lah that I quite like green tea. And I also have prepared a notebook where I would write down all the things that I would like to jot down. And this is a G2 Pilot 0.5 blue color pen that is gonna accompany me for the whole entire time. So I suggest if you want to learn something, maybe you can also maybe take up your phone, have a notepad, listen to this and see how it goes. It's my first time doing this kind of thing, so I'm not sure what to expect. Maybe you like it, maybe you don't. Maybe I like it, maybe I don't. I'm not really a seasonal reader, so I might take some time. Why I'm doing this is because I don't read much, so this is a chance, an opportunity for me to really read and to really sink in what I read. And what's a good way to actually start? If I want to become a filmmaker, I need to learn how to write stories and read. So I think this is a good way to start. So without further ado, 10 minutes has passed already. I don't want to waste any more time. I'll start reading. Who is here with me? Okay. If you have any questions, do put up on the live chat so I can actually also understand where you're coming from and also listen to your sort of ideas as well. And if you have any questions or anything, you can just write down in the comments, even if you're not in the live stream. Okay, so the anatomy of story. I don't know why I have challenge writing that. John Truby is Hollywood's premier story consultant and the founder of John Truby's Writers Studio. He has worked as a story consultant and script doctor for the Walt Disney Studio, Sony Pictures, Fox Entertainment Group, and HBO, among others, and has taught his 22-step great screenwriting and genre classes to more than 20,000 students worldwide. Okay, so just give a backstory of John Truby. Okay. Acknowledgements. No need to read lah. Need to read. No need lah. Okay, chapter 1. Story space. Story time. Everyone can tell a story. We do it every day. You won't believe what happened at work. Or guess what I just did. Or a guy goes into a bar. We see, hear, read, and tell thousands of stories in our lives, which is something that I need to do. But I haven't got the chance to do because we are in MCO. God damn it. The problem comes in telling a great story. If you want to become a master storyteller and maybe even get paid to be one, you run up against tremendous obstacles. For one thing, showing the how and why and human life is a monumental job. You have to have a deep and precise understanding of the biggest, most complex subject there is. And then you have to be able to translate your understanding into a story. For most writers, that may be the biggest challenge of all. I want to be specific about the obstacles of story technique because that's the only way a writer can hope to overcome them. The first obstacle is the common terminology most writers use to think about story. Terms like rising action, climax, progressive complication, and denouement? I don't know what's that. Terms that go as far back as Aristotle are so broad and theoretical as to be almost meaningless. Let's be honest, they have no practical value for storytellers. Say you are writing a scene where your hero is hanging by his fingertips, seconds from falling to his death. Is that a progressive complication, a rising action, a denouement, or the opening scene of the story? It may be none of them, or all of them, but in any event, these terms don't tell you how to write the scene, or whether to write it at all. The classic story terms suggest an even bigger obstacle to good technique, the very idea of what story is and how it works. As a storyteller, in training, the first thing you probably did was read Aristotle Poetics. I didn't. Should I? I believe Aristotle was the greatest philosopher in history, but his thinking about story, while powerful, is surprisingly narrow. Focus on a limited number of plots and genres. It is also extremely theoretical and difficult to put into actual practice, which is why most storytellers trying to learn the practical techniques of their craft from Aristotle leave empty-handed. If you are a screenwriter, you probably moved from Aristotle to a much simpler understanding of story called 3-act structure. This is also problematic because 3-act structure, albeit a lot easier to understand than Aristotle, is hopelessly simplistic and in many ways just plain wrong. 3-act theory says that every story for the screen has 3 acts. The first act is the beginning, the second is the middle, and the third is the end. The first act is about 30 pages long. The third act is also about 30 pages long. The second act runs to around 60 pages. And this 3-act story supposedly has 2 or 3 plot points, whatever those are. Got that? Great. Now go and write a professional script. I'm simplifying this theory of story, but not by much. It should be obvious that such an elementary approach has even less practical value than Aristotle. But what's worse is that it promotes a view of story that is mechanical. The idea of an act break comes from the convention of traditional theatre, where we close the curtain to signal the end of an act. We don't need to do that in movies, novels, and short stories, or even for that matter in many contemporary plays. In short, act breaks are external to the story. 3-act structure is a mechanical device superimposed on the story and has nothing to do with its internal logic, where the story should or should not go. A mechanical view of story like 3-act theory inevitably leads to episodic storytelling. An episodic story is a collection of pieces, like parts stored in a box. Events in a story stand out as discrete elements and don't connect or build steadily from beginning to end. The result is a story that moves the audience sporadically, if at all. Another obstacle to mastering storytelling has to do with the writing process. Just as many writers have a mechanical view of what a story is, they use a mechanical process of creating one. This is especially true of screenwriters whose mistaken notion of what makes a script sellable lead them to write a script that is neither popular nor good. Screenwriters typically come up with a story idea that is a slight variation on a movie they saw 6 months previously. Then they apply a genre like detective, love, or action and fill in the characters and plot beats, story events, that go with that form. The result, a hopelessly generic, formulaic story devoid of originality. So in this book, I want to show you a better way. My goal is to explain how a great story works, along with the techniques needed to create one, so that you will have the best chance of writing a great story of your own. Some would argue that it is impossible to teach someone how to tell a great story. I believe it can be done, but it requires that we think and talk about story differently than in the past. In simplest terms, I'm going to lay out a practical poetics for storytellers that works, whether you're writing a screenplay, a novel, a play, a teleplay, or a short story. I will, 3 points, show that a great story is organic, not a machine, but a living body that develops. Treat storytelling as an exacting craft with precise techniques that will help you to be successful, regardless of the medium or genre you choose. Work through a writing process that is also organic, meaning that we will develop characters and plots that grow naturally out of the original story idea. The main challenge facing any storyteller is overcoming the contradiction between the first and the second of these tasks. You construct a story from hundreds, even thousands of elements using a vast array of techniques. Yet the story must feel organic to the audience. It must seem like a single thing that grows or builds to a climax. If you want to become a great storyteller, you have to master this technique to such a high degree that your character seems to be acting on their own, as they must, even though you are the one making them act that way. So in this sense, we storytellers are a lot like athletes. A great athlete makes everything look easy, as though his body just naturally moves that way. But in fact, he has so mastered the techniques of his sport that his technique has simply disappeared from view, and the audience see only beauty. The teller and the listener. Let's begin the process simply with a one-line definition of a story. A speaker tells a listener what someone did to get what he wanted and why. A speaker, tells a listener what someone did to get what he wanted and why. Notice we have 3 distinct elements: the teller, the listener, and the story that is told. The storyteller is first and foremost someone who plays. Stories are verbal games that author plays with the audience. They keep no score. The studios, networks, publishing houses do that. The storyteller makes up characters and action. He tells what happened, laying out a set of actions that have been completed in some way. Even he tells the story in the present tense, as in playwriting or screenwriting. The storyteller is summing up all the events so that the listener feels that this is a single unit, the full story. But telling a story is not simply making up or remembering past events. Events are just descriptive. The storyteller is really selecting, connecting, and building a series of intense moments. These moments are so charged that the listener feels he is living them himself. Good storytelling doesn't just tell audience what happened in a life. It gives them the experience of that life. It is the essential life, just the crucial thoughts and events, but it's conveyed with such freshness and newness that it feels part of the audience's essential life too. I think this is important. Telling a story is not simply making up or remembering past events. The storyteller is really selecting. I need to highlight this, but I don't have highlighter. But never mind. The storyteller is really selecting, connecting, and building a series of intense moments. These moments are so charged that the listener feels he is living them himself. Good storytelling doesn't just tell the audience what happened in their life, it gives them the experience of that life. It is the essential life, just the crucial thoughts and events, but it's conveyed with such freshness and newness that it feels part of the audience's essential life too. What else? Good storytelling lets the audience relive events in the present so that they can understand the forces, choices, and emotions that led the character to do what he did. Stories are really giving the audience a form of knowledge, emotional knowledge, or what used to be known as wisdom, but they do it in a playful and entertaining way. I agree. As a creator of verbal games that let the audience relive a life, the storyteller is constructing a kind of puzzle about people and asking the listener to figure it out. So making the listener, the audience, smart lah, let them think about it, So the author creates this puzzle in two major ways. He tells the audience certain information about a made-up character, and he withholds certain information. So he withholds some certain information. Withholding or hiding information is crucial to the storytelling teller's make-believe. It forces the audience to figure out who the character is and what he is doing, and so draws the audience into the story. When the audience no longer has to figure out the story, it ceases being an audience and the story just stops. Audiences love both the feeling part, reliving the life, and the thinking part, figuring out the puzzle of a story. Every good story has both, but you can see story forms that go to one extreme or the other, from sentimental melodrama to the most cerebral detective story. So now, the story. There have been thousands if not millions of stories. So what makes each of them a story? What do all stories do? What is the storyteller both revealing to and hiding from the audience? Key point. All stories are a form of communication that expresses the dramatic code. All stories are a form of communication that expresses the dramatic code. The dramatic code, embedded deep in the human psyche, is an artistic description of how a person can grow or evolve. Embedded deep in the human psyche is an artistic description of how a person can grow or evolve. This code is also a process going on underneath every story. The storyteller hides this process beneath particular characters and actions. The code of growth is what the audience ultimately takes from a good story. Let's look at the dramatic code in its simplest form. In the dramatic code, change is fueled by desire. The story world doesn't boil down to I think therefore I am, but rather I want therefore I am. Desire in all of its facets is what makes the world go round. It is what people are conscious living things and gives them direction. Desire in all of its facets is what makes the world go around. It is what propels all conscious and living things and gives them direction. So your desire lah. A story tracks what a person wants, what he'll do to get it, and what costs he'll have to pay along the way. Interesting? Once a character has a desire, the story walks on two legs, acting and learning. A character pursuing a desire takes action to get what he wants, and he learns new information about better ways to get it. Whenever he learns a new information, he makes a decision and changes his course of action. All stories move in this way, but some story forms highlight one of these activities over the other. The genres that highlight taking action the most are myth and its later version, the action form. The genres that highlight learning the most are the detective stories and the multi-perspective drama. Okay. Any character who goes after a desire and is is forced to struggle, otherwise the story is over. And that struggle makes him change. So the ultimate goal of a dramatic code and of the storyteller is to present a change in a character or to illustrate why that change did not occur. The different forms of storytelling frame human change in different ways, in differing ways. Okay, so these are the different forms of storytelling that frame human change in differing ways. Okay, so myth tends to show the widest character arc, from birth to death and from animal to divine. Plays typically focus on the main character's moment of decision. Film, especially American film, shows the small change a character might undergo by seeking a limited goal with great intensity. Classic short stories usually tracks a few events that lead the character to gain a single important insight. Serious novels typically depict how a person interacts and changes within an entire society or show the precise mental and emotional processes leading up to his change. Television drama shows a number of characters in a mini society struggling to change simultaneously. Okay. Drama is a code of maturity. The focal point is the moment of change, the impact, when a person breaks free of habit and weaknesses and goes from his past and transforms to a richer and fuller self. Drama is the code of maturity. The focal point is the moment of change, the impact, when a person breaks free of habit and weaknesses and goes from his past and transforms to a richer and fuller self. The dramatic code expresses the idea that human beings can become a better version of themselves, psychologically and morally. And that's why people love it. Yeah, I like dramas. So the key point. Story don't show the audience the real world, they show the story world. The story world isn't a copy of life as it is, it's life as human beings imagine it could be. It is human life condensed and heightened so that the audience can gain a better understanding of how life itself works. Now, the story body. How y'all doing? Half an hour already. A great story describes human beings going through an organic process. A great story describes human beings going through an organic process, but it is also a living body unto itself. Even the simplest children's story is made up of many parts or subsystems that connect with and feed off one another. Just as the human body is made up of the nervous system, the circulatory system, the skeleton, and so on, a story is made up of subsystems that, like the characters, the plot, the revelation sequence, the story world, the moral argument, the symbol web, the scene weave, and symphonic dialogue, all of which we will explain in the upcoming chapters. We might say that the theme, or what I call moral argument, is the brain of the story. Character is the heart and circulation system, revelations are the nervous system, and story structure is the skeleton. Scenes are the skin. Key point. Each subsystem of the story consists of a web of elements that help define and differentiate the other elements. No individual element in your story, including the hero, will work unless you first create it and define it in relation to all the other elements. Story movement. To see how an organic story moves, let's look at nature, like the storyteller. Nature often connects elements in some kind of sequence. The following diagram shows a number of distinct elements that must be connected in time. So that's this one. This is the dot one. Okay. So this dot one, nature uses a few basic patterns, a number of variations to connect elements in a sequence, including linear, meandering, spiral, branching, and explosive. Storyteller use these patterns individually and in combination to connect story events over time. The linear and explosive patterns are at the opposite extremes. The linear patterns has one thing happening after another on a straight path. Explosion has everything happening simultaneously. The meandering, the spiral, and the branching patterns are a combination of the linear and explosive. What? Here's how these patterns work in stories. So I think this is explosion lah. This is more like, okay, everything is happening at once. So the linear one is this one lah, the arrow down. The linear story. The linear story tracks a single main character from beginning to end. It implies a historical or biological explanation for what happens. Most Hollywood films are linear. They focus on a single hero who pursues a particular desire with great intensity. The audience witnesses the history of how the hero goes after his desire and is changed as a result. Meandering story. The meandering story follows a winding path without apparent direction. So like this one. Yep. The meander is the form of rivers, snakes, and the brain. Myths like the Odyssey, comic journey stories like Don Quixote, Tom Jones, Adventure of Huckleberry Finn, Little Big Man, and Flirting with Disaster, and many of Dickens' stories such as David Copperfield, takes the meandering form. The hero has a desire, but it's not intense. He covers a great deal of territory in a haphazard way, and he encounters a number of characters from different levels of society. I would say a meandering story is like Forrest Gump. Spiral story. A spiral is a path that circles inward to the center, either like this coil thing or this right? In nature, spirals occurs in cyclones, horns, and seashells. Thriller like Vertigo, Blow Up, The Conversation, Memento typically favors the spiral, in which a character keeps returning to a single event or memory and explores it at a progressively deeper level. Oh, yawning already. Page 12. Branching story. A branching is a system of paths that extend from a few central points by splitting and adding smaller and smaller parts, as shown here. This one. In nature, branching occurs in trees, leaves, and river basins. In storytelling, each branch usually represents a complete society in detail or a detailed stage of a same society that the hero explores. The branching form is found in most advanced fiction, such as social fantasies like Gulliver's Travels and It's a Wonderful Life, or in multiple hero stories like Nashville, American Gravity, and Traffic. Maybe Kill Bill? I don't know. She goes to like different society, right? I don't know. Explosive story. Then what is that? This is an explosive story. I don't know. This is an explosive story. Explosion has multiple paths that extend simultaneously. In nature, the explosive pattern is found in volcanoes and dandelions. In a story, you can't show the audience a number of elements all at once, even for a single scene, because you have to tell one thing after another. So strictly speaking, there are no explosive stories where you can give the appearance of simultaneity. In film, this is done with the technique of a crosscut. Stories that show simultaneous action imply a comparative explanation of what happens. By seeing a number of elements all at once, the audience grasp the key idea embedded in each element. These stories also put more emphasis on exploring the story world, showing the connection between the various elements there and how everyone fits or doesn't fit within the whole. Stories that emphasize simultaneous action tend to use a branching structure and include American Gravity, Pulp Fiction, Traffic, Syriana, Crash, Nashville, Tristram Shandy, Ulysses, Last Year at Marienbad, Ragtime, The Canterbury Tales, LA Confidential, and Hannah and Her Sisters. Each represents a different combination of linear and simultaneous storytelling, but each emphasizes characters existing together in a story world, as opposed to a single character developing from beginning to end. Okay? How's it so far? I just read 13 pages, non-stop. Quite good, right? I'm reading I'm reading and talking, you know. Reading is much faster, I feel. But like that already, like almost half an hour already. Almost finishing with this one. This chapter. And I think I'll go for another one lah. 2 chapters lah. Okay. Writing your story. Should I just do 1 hour? Because I feel like if I can finish 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, 5 part. Wait, let me see. This is me being procrastinating for not reading, right? I'm just like trying to get. Is it normal? Is it normal to like, oh, you read already, then you like want to pause, but then you go to the back, see how long it is, then you go to the next chapter, how far you need to read to, and then now you go back to the front and see how many chapters you have. So there's 11 chapters. So say for example today I have 1 hour doing chapter 1 and 2. The next one is part 3 and 4, 1 hour. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's 6 hours of reading. So if there's 6 hours of reading, means there's 6 parts to this anatomy of story. So should I just do that? 1 hour. I think we're at 14 minutes. Then I think by another half an hour, I think I'll be able to finish. Okay. There's a lot to take in just now, but it's just like giving a different types of story, and giving you like just a introduction lah of what a story is and whatnot. So, writing a story. So let's get practical. What writing process would give you the best chance of creating a great story? Most writers don't use the best process for creating a story. They use the easiest one. We could describe it in 4 words: external, mechanical, piecemeal, generic. Of course, there are a lot of variation on this process, but they all work something like this. The writer comes up with a generic premise or story idea that is vague copy of one that already exists. Or is a combination of 2 stories that he has creatively struck together. Knowing the importance of a strong main character, our writer focuses almost all of his attention on the hero. He fleshes out this character mechanically by tacking on as many traits as possible, and figures he will make the hero change in the last scene. He thinks of the opponent and minor characters as separate from and less important than the hero. So they are almost always weak, poorly defined characters. When it comes to the theme, our writer avoids it entirely so that no one can accuse him of sending a message. Or he expresses it strictly in the dialogue. He says the story in whatever world seems normal for that character, most likely a major city, since that's where most people in his audience live. He doesn't bother using symbols because that would be obvious and pretentious. He comes up with a plot and a scene sequence based on one question: what happens next? Often he sends his hero on a physical journey. He organizes his plot using the 3-act structure and external imprint that divides the story into 3 pieces but doesn't link the events under the surface. As a result, the plot is episodic, with each event or scene standing alone. He complains that he has a second act problems and can't understand why the story doesn't build to a climatic punch that moves the audience deeply. Finally, he writes dialogue that simply pushes the plot along, with all conflict focused on what is happening. If he is ambitious, he has his hero state the theme directly in dialogue near the end of the story. If most writers use an approach that is external, mechanical, piecemeal, and generic, the writing process we will work through might be described as internal, organic, interconnected, and original. I must warn you right up front, the process isn't easy. It's not easy, guys. This is gonna be difficult. But I believe that this approach or some variant of it is the only one that really works. And it can be learned. Here's the writing process we're going to use in this book. We will work through the techniques of a great storytelling in the same order that you construct your story. Most important, you will construct your story from the inside out. That means 2 things: making the story personal and unique to you, and finding and developing what is original within your story idea. With each chapter, your story will grow and become more detailed, with each part connected to every other part. The premise. We begin with the premise, which is your entire story condensed into a single sentence. That premise will suggest the essence of the story, and we will use that to figure out how to develop it so as to get the most out of the idea. 7 key story structure steps. The 7 key story structure steps are the major stages of your story development and of the dramatic code hidden under its surface. Think of the 7 structure steps as your story's DNA. Determining the 7 key steps will give your story a solid, stable foundation. Character. Next, we will create the characters not by pulling them out of thin air, but by drawing them out of your original story idea. We will connect and compare each character to every other character so that each one is strong and well defined. Then we'll figure out the function each must perform in helping your hero develops. The theme, moral argument. The theme is your moral vision, your view on how people should act in the world. But instead of making the characters a mouthpiece for a message, we will express the theme that is inherent in the story idea, and will express the theme through the story structure so that it both surprises and moves the audience. Okay. Story world. Next, we will create the world of story as an outgrowth of your hero. The story world will help you define your hero and show the audience a physical expression of his growth. Symbol web. Symbols are packets of highly compressed meanings. We'll figure out a web of symbols that highlight and communicate different aspects of the characters, the story world, and the plot. Plot. From the characters, we will discover the right story form. The plot will grow from your unique characters. Using a 22 story structure steps, the 7 key steps plus 15 more. We will design a plot in which all the events are connected under the surface and build to a surprising but logically necessary ending. Scene weave. In the last step before writing scenes, we'll come up with a list of every scene in the story, with all the plot lines and themes woven into the tapestry. scene construction and symphonic dialogue. Finally, we'll write the story, constructing each scene so that it furthers the development of your hero. We'll write dialogue that doesn't just push the plot but has a symphonic quality, blending many instruments and levels at one time. As you watch your story grow before your eyes, I can promise you one thing: you will enjoy the creation. So let's begin. Chapter 1 done. Let's begin, guys. Are you ready? Are you ready to write your story? Are you ready to take a break and drink a little bit of water and eat a little bit of sweets and try to just chill a bit, procrastinate a little bit, because reading warning signs that you're getting bowel cancer, according to doctor. The word bowel is something no one wants to hear from the doctor. While cancer is terrifying, it's important to hunt this disease early to boost chances of survival and block the growth and spread in its tracks. Okay, you should check out the following, okay? Blood in your motions or in your bottom. Obvious changes in your bowel habits, weight loss, and extreme tiredness. Lump or pain in your tummy, mass in your tummy. Okay, so that is if you have any symptoms of bowel cancer, go see your doctor. How's everyone doing? Who is here? Who is here with me? Building Lego is so much fun. Reading is just but I have to read. Reading is vital. It's good. It's good for you. So all of us must read, even if it takes you 6 hours to finish it. Half an hour for one chapter. 11 times 30 is how much? 360 hours. Divide by 60 is how much? 6 hours. I don't know, I'm not even writing down. I should be writing down, right? I should be writing down like points or things that they say is quite important, but I'm not. I'm focusing on just reading it out. Is it easy for you to follow? Shall I continue? That's just 16 pages only, you know. Hey, wait, not even 50. That's how many pages now? Three. That's 12 pages only. 12 pages. Now the 38, and now I'm at 16. It's like 22 pages more. Jan, stop procrastinating. just continue to read, please. Yes, I would do it. I would continue watching, okay? I'll continue reading. Chapter 2. Chapter 2. Premise. You don't mind me if I'm sucking on a green tea sweet. So you might hear some sounds, but don't mind me. I need the constant saliva to keep my mouth wet. Okay, premise. Michael Crichton doesn't have the deep human characters of Chekhov or the brilliant plots of the Dickens. He just happens to be the best premise writer in Hollywood. Take Jurassic Park for example. Crichton's story might have come from this designing principle. What if you took the two greatest heavyweights of evolution, dinosaurs and humans, and forced them to fight to the death in the same ring? Now that's the story I want to see. There are many ways to start the writing process. Some writers prefer to begin by breaking the story into 7 primary steps, which we will explore in the next chapter. But most begin with the shortest expression of the story as a whole, the premise line. What is a premise? The premise is your story stated in one sentence. It is the simplest combination of character and plot and typically consists of some event that starts the action, some sense of the main character, and some sense of the outcome of the story. So, some examples. The Godfather. The youngest son of a mafia family takes revenge on the man who shot his father and becomes the new Godfather. Moonstruck. While her fiancé visits his mother in Italy, a woman falls in love with the man's brother. Casablanca. A tough American expatriate. A tough American expatriate rediscovers an old flame only to give her up so that he can fight the Nazis. A streetcar named Desire. An aging beauty tries to get a man to marry her while under constant attack from her sister's brutish husband. Star Wars. When the princess falls into mortal danger, a young man uses his skills as a fighter to save her and defeat the evil forces of a galactic empire. There are all kinds of practical reasons why a good premise is so crucial to your success. First, Hollywood is in the business of selling movies worldwide, with a big chunk of revenue coming the opening weekend. So producers look for a premise that is high concept, meaning that the film can be reduced to a catchy one-line description that audiences will understand instantly and come rushing to the theatre to see. Second, your premise is your inspiration. It's the light bulb moment when you say, now that would make a terrific story. And that excitement gives you the perseverance to go through months, even years of hard writing. This leads to another important point. For better or worse, the premise is also your prison. As soon as you decide to pursue one idea, there are potential thousands of ideas that you won't be writing about. So you better be happy with the special word you've chosen. Key point. What you choose to write about is far more important than any decision you make about how to write it. What you choose to write about is far more important than any decision you make about how to write it. One last reason you must have a good premise is that it's the one decision on which every other decision you make during the writing process is based. Character, plot, theme, symbol, it all comes down out of this story idea. If you fail at the premise, nothing else will help. If a building's foundation is flawed, no amount of work on the floors above will make the building stable. You may be a terrific at character, master at plot, or a genius at a dialogue, but if your premise is weak, there is nothing you can do to save the story. 9 out of 10 writers fail at the premise. The big reason so many writers fail here is that they don't know how to develop the idea, how to dig out the gold that's buried within it. They don't realize that the great value of a premise is that it allows you to explore the full story and the many forms it might take before you actually write it. Premise is a classic example of where a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. Most screenwriters know the importance Hollywood places on having a high concept premise. What they don't know is that this marketing pitch is never going to tell them what the organic story demands. They also don't know the inherent structural weakness found in any high concept premise. It gives you only 2 or 3 scenes. These are the scenes just before and after that twist that makes your premise unique. The average feature film has 40 to 70 scenes. A novel may have double or triple that number. Only by knowing the full craft of storytelling can you overcome the limitations of the high concept and tell the whole story successfully. The first technique for finding the goal is an idea is time. Take a lot of it at the beginning of the writing process. I'm not talking about hours or even days, I'm talking about weeks. Don't make the amateurish mistake of getting a hot premise and immediately running off to write scenes. You get 20 to 30 pages into the story and run into a dead end you can't escape. A premise stage of the writing process is where you explore your story grand strategy, seeing the big picture and figuring out the story general shape and development. You start out with almost nothing to go on. That's why the premise stage is the most tentative of the entire writing process. You are putting out feelers in the dark, exploring possibilities to see what works and what doesn't. What forms an organic whole and what falls apart. That means you have to remain flexible, open to all possibilities. For the same reason, this is where using an organic creative method as your guide is the most important. Okay. Developing your premise. In the weeks you take to explore your premise, use these steps to come up with a premise line you can turn into a great story. Okay, let's do this. Step 1. Write something that may change your life. This is very high standard, but it may be the most valuable piece of advice you'll ever get as a writer. I've never seen a writer go wrong following it. Why? Because if a story is that important to you, it may be that important to a lot of people in the audience. And when you're done writing the story, no matter what else happens, you've changed your life. You might say, I love to write a story that changes my life, but how do I know it will change my life before I've written it? Simple. Do some self-exploration, something most writers incredibly enough never do. Most writers are content to think of a premise that's a loose copy of someone else's movie, book or play. It seems to have commercial appeal, but it's not personal to the writer in any way. This story will never rise above the generic and so it is bound to fail. To explore yourself, to have a chance to write something that may change your life, you have to get some data on who you are. And you have to get it outside of you, in front of you, so that you can study it from a distance. 2 exercises can help you do this. First, write down your wish list. Okay. Need to write already. Instead of a blue pen, I'll change to a black pen. And this is a 0.5 Pilot G2 pen. It's full of ink and it's very nice to write. Okay, so write something that changes your life, may change your life. Write something that may change your life. There's 2 exercises. First is write down your wish list. A list of everything you would like to see up on screen, in a book, or at the theatre. It's what you are passionately interested in, and it's what plot twists or great lines of dialogue that have popped in your... It's what you're passionately interested in, and it's what entertains you. You might jot down characters you have imagined, cool plot twists, and great lines of dialogue that may have popped into your head. You might list themes that you care about or certain genres that almost attract you. Write them all down as many sheets of paper as you need. This is your own personal wish list, so don't reject anything. Banish thoughts like, oh, that would cost too much money, and don't organize while you write. Let one idea trigger one another. The second exercise is to write a premise list. This is a list of every... Write a premise list. This is a list of every premise you ever thought of. Okay? That might be 5, 20, 50 or more. Again, take as many sheets of paper as you need. The key requirement of the exercise is that you express each premise in one sentence. This forces you to be clear about each idea. And it allows you to see all your premises together in one place. Once you have completed both your wish list and premise list, lay them out before you and study them. Look for core elements that repeat themselves on both lists. Certain characters, character types that may recur, a quality of voice may seep through the line of dialogue, one or two kinds of story genre may repeat, or there may be a theme or subject matter of time period that you keep going back to. As you study, key patterns will start to emerge about what you love. This in its rawest form possible is your vision. It's who you are. As a writer and a human being on paper in front of you, go back to it often. Notice that these two exercises are designed to open you up and to integrate what is already deep within you. They won't guarantee that you will write a story that changes your life, nothing can do that, but once you've done this essential bit of self-exploration, any premise you can come up with is more likely to be personal and original. Self-exploration. So, that's it. I'm gonna go out for like 10 weeks. A few weeks just coming up with a list. Wish list. So for me personally, what I wish, actually there's a lot of things to wish about. Or a premise I think is a bit hard, because like sometimes some of the ideas that I have or some of the wish list that I have, is hard to condense it into one sentence. So I feel that that's the problem, you know. Like maybe the story is not strong enough, or maybe it's just like you need more you need to be more focused in the sense of like where I mean personally lah, for me I need to be more focused, and so that when I write a story I know how to express it in a single sentence, like the premise list. And I think this is a self-exploration thing lah, so I think I need to start just explore different areas in my life, and sort of like, you know, events that may have changed me, and what are the things that I feel like is important personally to me, and to write them all down lah, you know. And to see like, yeah, like what he say, like it's more like you already put out a big picture, and you see like, okay, this is what happens to you, and what are the things that usually comes out most of the time, you know. And so you try to find like the core little things in your life, and you can use that as a way to as to write something original and personal lah. So this one I need more time. And I need a big sheet of paper. I don't think one book can do. Okay. Okay. Step 2. Look for what's possible. One of the biggest reasons writers fail at the premise stage is that they don't know how to spot their story's true potential. This takes experience as well as technique. What you're looking for here is what the idea might go, how it might blossom. Don't jump on a single possibility right away, even if it looks good. Explore your options. This is the key point here. Explore your options. The intent here is to brainstorm the many different paths the idea can take and then choose the best one. One technique for exploring possibilities is to see if anything is promised by the idea. Some ideas generate certain expectations, things that must happen to satisfy the audience if this idea were to play out in a full story. Look for what's possible. Explore your options. A valuable technique for seeing what's possible in the idea is to ask yourself, what if? The what ifs. The what if question leads to two places, your story idea and your own mind. It helps you to define what is allowed in the story world and what is not. It also helps you to explore your mind as it plays in the make-believe landscape. Story idea and own mind. The more often you ask what ifs, the more fully you can inhabit this landscape. Flesh out its details and make it compelling for an audience. The point here is to let your mind go free. Don't censor or judge yourself. Don't ever tell yourself that any idea you come up with is stupid. Stupid ideas often lead to creative breakthrough. You're not stupid, you're creative. To understand this process better, let's look at some of the stories that have already been written and play around with what the authors might have been thinking as to explore the deeper possibilities of their premise ideas. Witness by Earl W. Wallace and William Kelly, story by William Kelly, 1985. A boy who witnesses a crime is a classic setup for a thriller. It promised nail-biting jeopardy, intense action and violence, but what if you push the story much further to explore violence in America? What if you show the two extremes of the use of force, violence and pacifism, by having the boy travel from one peaceful Amish world to the violent city? What if you then force a good man of violence, the cop hero, to enter the Amish world and fall in love? And then what if you bring violence into the heart of pacifism? What's pacifism? I don't know. Tootsie by Larry Jalbert, Murray Siegel, story of Don Maguire and Larry Gilbert, 1982. The promise that immediately comes to the audience mind for this idea is that the fun of seeing a man dressed as a woman And they will want to see this character in as many difficult situations as possible. But what if you go beyond this useful but obvious expectation? What if you play up the hero's strategizing to show how men play the game of love from the inside? What if you make the hero a chauvinist who is forced to take on the one disguise that of a woman that he least wants but most need to take on in order to grow? What if you heighten the pace and the plot by pushing the story forward toward fast, showing a lot of men and women chasing after each other at the same time? Chinatown by Robert Town, 1974. A man who investigates a murder in 1930s Los Angeles promises all the revelation twists and surprises of a good whodunit. But what if the crime just keeps getting bigger? What if the detective starts investigating the smallest crime possible, adultery, and ends up finding out that the entire city has been built on murder? Then you can make up the revelations bigger and bigger until you reveal to the audience the deepest, darkest secrets of American life. The Godfather, novel by Mario Puzo, screenplay by Mario Puzo and Francis Ford Coppola, 1972. A story about a mafia family promises ruthless killers and violent crimes. What if you make the head of the family much bigger, make him a kind of a king in America? What if he is the head of the dark side of the America, just as powerful in the underworld as the president is in official America? Because this man is a king, you could create a grand tragedy, a Shakespearean fall and rise where one king dies and another takes his place. What if you turn a simple crime story into a dark American epic? Murder on the Orient Express, novel by Agatha Christie, screenplay by Paul Dern, 1974. A man killed in a train compartment right next door to where a brilliant detective is sleeping promises to be an ingenious detective story. But what if you take the idea of justice beyond the typical capture of the murderer? What if you want to show the ultimate poetic justice? What if the murdered man deserves to die and a natural jury of 12 men and women serve as both his judge and executioner? Big by Gary Ross and Anne Spielberg, 1988. A boy who suddenly wakes up to find he is a full-grown man promises to be a fun comedic fantasy. But what if you write a fantasy not set in some far-off bizarre world but in a world an average kid would recognize? What if you send him into a real boys' utopia, a toy company, and let him go out with pretty sexy women? And what if the story isn't just about the boy getting big physically, but one that shows the ideal blend of a man and boy for living a happy adult life? That's step 2. Step 3. Identify the story challenges and problems. There are rules of construction. Wait, let me write that down. Identify the story challenges and problems. There are rules of construction. Okay, shall I change the accent to maybe Indian? Okay. There are rules of construction that applies to all the stories, but each story has its own unique set of rules and challenges as well. These are particular problems that are deep embedded in the idea, and you cannot escape them, nor do you want to. These problems are signposts for finding your true story. You must confront these problems head on. Solve them if you are to execute your story well. Most writers, if they identify the problems at all, do so after they've written the complete story. That's far too late. Wait, I don't even know what I'm reading. There are rules of construction that applies to all stories, but each story has a unique set of rules or challenges as well. These are particular problems that are deeply embedded into the idea, and you cannot escape them, nor do you want to. These problems are signposts for finding your true story. You must confront these problems head on and solve them if you want to execute your story well. Most writers, if they identify the problems at all, do so after they've written the complete story. That's far too late. The trick is to learn how to spot inherent problems right at the premise line. Of course, even the best writers can spot other problems this soon in the process, but as you master the key techniques of character, plots, theme, story, world, symbols and dialogues, you were pleasantly surprised at how well you can dig out the difficulties in any idea. Here are just a few challenges and problems inherent to the following story ideas. Star Wars by George Lucas, 1977. In any epic, but especially a space epic like Star Wars, you must introduce a wide range of characters quickly and then keep them interacting over vast space and time. You must make the futuristic story believable and recognizable in the present. And you must find a way to create a character change in a hero who is morally good from the beginning. In any epic, especially you must introduce a wide array and then keep them interesting You must take them in the recognize in the present, and you must find a way to create a Okay, Forrest Gump, novel by Winston Groom, screenplay by Eric Roth, 1994. How do you turn 40 years of historic moments into a cohesive, organic, personal story? Personal including creating a mentally challenged hero who is able to drive the plot, have believable deep insights and experience character change while balancing whimsy with genuine sentiment. Beloved by Toni Morrison, 1988. The main challenge for Toni Morrison is to write a tale of slavery in which the hero is not portrayed as a victim. An ambitious story like this has numerous problems that must be solved. Keeping narrative drive in spite of constant jump between past and present, making events in the distant past seem meaningful to an audience today, driving the plot with reactive characters, showing the effects of slavery on the minds of the people who live it, and demonstrating how its effect continue to punish years after the slavery is over. Jaws, a novel by Peter Benchley, a screenplay by Peter Benchley and Carl Scalise, 1975. Writing a realistic horror story in which character finds one of the man's natural predators poses many problems, creating a fair fight with an opponent that has limited intelligence, setting up a situation where the shark can attack often, and ending the story with the hero going mano and mano with the shark. Adventures of Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain, 1885. The main challenge facing the writers of Adventure of Huckleberry Finn is huge. How do you show the moral more precisely, immoral fabric of an entire nation in fictional terms? This brilliant story idea carries with it some major, using a boy to drive the action, maintaining story momentum and story strong opposition in a traveling episodic structure, and believably showing a simple, not entirely admirable boy gaining great insight. I'm just reading, I don't know what. So from the premise line, there is a challenges that the characters sort of face, right? The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald, 1925. Fitzgerald's challenge is to show the American dream corrupted and reduced to a competition for fame and money. His problems are just as daunting. He must create narrative drive when the hero is someone else's helper, makes the audience care about shallow people, and somehow turn a small love story into a metaphor for America. Death of a Salesman by Arthur Miller, 1949. The central challenge for Arthur Miller is to turn the life of a small man into a grand tragedy. Problems he must solve includes mixing past and present with events without confusing the audience, maintaining narrative drive, and providing hope in a desperate and violent conclusion. Okay. Step 4. Find the designing principles. Find the designing principle. Given the problems and promises inherent in your ideas, you must now come up with an overall strategy for how you would tell your story. Given the problems and promises inherent in your idea, you must now come up with an overall strategy for how you will tell your story. Your overall story strategy stated in one line is the designing principle of your story. Your overall story strategy stated in one line is the designing. The designing principle helps you to extend the premise into a deep structure. Key point. The designing principle is what organizes the story as a whole. It is the internal logic of the story. What makes the parts hang together organically is so that the story becomes greater than the sum of its parts. It is what makes the story original. The designing principle is what makes the story as a whole. It is the internal logic of the story, what makes the parts hang together organically so that the story becomes greater than the sum of its parts. It is what makes the story original. In short, the designing principle is the seed of the story, and it is the single most important factor in making a story original and effective. Sometimes this principle is a symbol or a metaphor known as a central symbol, the grand metaphor or the root metaphor, but it is often larger than that. The designing principle tracks the fundamental process that will unfold over the course of the story. The designing principle is difficult to see, and in truth most stories don't have one. They are standard stories told generically. That's the difference between the premise which all stories have and a designing principle which only good stories have. The premise is concrete, it's what actually happens. The designing principle is abstract, it is the deeper process going on in the story, told in an original way, stated in one line. Okay, designing principle equals story process plus original execution. Let's say you are a writer who wants to show the intimate workings of the mafia in America, as literally hundreds of screenwriters and novelists. Let me feed the place. Have done. If you were really good, you might come up with the designing principle for The Godfather. Using the classic fairy tale strategy of showing how the youngest three sons becomes the new king. What's important is that the designing principle is the synthesizing idea, the shaping cause of the story. It's what internally makes the story a single unit and what makes it different from all other stories. Find a designing principle and stick to it. Be diligent in discovering the principle and never take your eyes off it during the long writing process. Let's take a look at Tootsie to see how different between the premise and the designing principle plays out in an actual story. So the premise is when an actor can't get the work, he disguises himself as a woman and gets a role in a TV series, only to fall in love with one of the female members of the cast. The designing principle: force a male chauvinist to live as a woman. How do you find the designing principle in your premise? Don't make the mistake most writers make at this point. Instead of coming up with a unique designing principles, pick a genre and impose it on the premise. Then force the story to hit the beats typical of that genre. The result is mechanical, generic, and unoriginal fiction. You find the designing principle by teasing out the simplest one-line premise you have before you. Like a detective, you induce the form of the story from the premise. This doesn't mean that there is one designing principle per idea or that is fixed or predetermined. There are many possible designing principles or forms that you can glean from your premise and by which you can develop your story. Each gives you different possibilities of what to say, and each brings inherent problems that you must solve. Again, let your technique help you out. Why is it so tough? Like, okay, I get it, but okay. One way of coming up with a designing principle is to use a journey or similar traveling metaphor. Huck Finn raft trip down the Mississippi River with Jim. Marlowe boat trip up the river into the heart of the darkness. Leopard Blooms travels through Dublin in Ulysses. Alice falls down the rabbit hole into an upside-down world of Wonderland. Each of these uses a traveling metaphor to organize the deeper process of the story. Notice how to use the use of a journey in the heart of darkness provides the designing principle for a very complex work of fiction. A storyteller trips uprivers into the jungle is the line of three different locations simultaneously, to the truth about a mysterious and apparently immoral man, to the truth about the storyteller himself, and backward in civilization to the barbaric moral heart of darkness in all humans. Sometimes a single symbol can serve as the designing principle, as with the red letter in A in the Scarlet Letter, the island in the Tempest, and the whale in Moby Dick, or the mountain in the Magic Mountain. Or you can connect two grand symbols in a process, like the green nature and black slacks of how green was my alley. Other designing principles including units of time, day, night, fall seasons, the unique use of storyteller, or a specific way the story unfolds. Here are some designing principles in books, films, and plays from the Bible all the way to the Harry Potter books, and how they differ from the premise line. So say for example, if I come up with a story about badminton, right? The symbol could be the racket. The premise would be, say for example, a badminton player wants to win a competition, right? So the designing principle would be to show how, like, this is so the designing principle is more like, okay, so this is how a badminton competition is in Malaysia. Or say for example, if this is like this is how people train, or like the relationship between a coach and the person who is being trained, an athlete, a coach and an athlete. Or say for example, is a journey of a man who is trying to or maybe it's not about badminton at all, it's about life. Okay, like a designing principle could be like a about badminton. Maybe it's about a man's like how you need to train a lot for badminton, right? So maybe talking about how you need to a man's willpower to be the best, or something like that. So I think that's the meaning of designing principles. Story challenges and problems. So maybe if I was coming up from this story about badminton, so maybe the story problems and challenges would be how you have to fight the system, or maybe it's like it's country versus country, like Malaysia versus China, something like that. Yeah. So if you get what I mean, 1.5 hours already. Okay. Moses in the book of Exodus. Premise: when an Egyptian prince discovers that he is Hebrew, he leads his people out of slavery. Designing principles: a man who does not know who he is struggles. A man who does not know who he is struggles to lead his people to freedom and receive the new moral laws that will define him and his people. Ulysses. Premise: track a day in the life of a common man in Dublin. Designing principle: in a modern odyssey through the city, over the course of a single day, one man finds a father and the other man finds a son. 4 weddings and a funeral. A man falls in love with a woman, but first one and the other is engaged to someone else. A group of friends experiences 4 utopias: weddings and a moment in hell, funeral, as they all look for their right partners in marriage. Harry Potter books. A boy discovers he has magical powers and attends a school for magicians. Designing principles: a magician prince learns to be a man and a king by attending a board of school for sorcerer over the course of 70 school years. The Sting. 2 con artists swindle a rich man who killed one of their friends. Designing principle: tell the story of a sting in the form of a sting and con both the opponent and the audience. Long day's journey into the night. A family deals with the mother's addiction. As family moves from day into night, its members are confronted with the sins and ghosts of their past. Meet Me in St. Louis. A young woman falls in love with a boy next door. The growth of a family over the course of a year is shown by events in each of the 4 seasons. Copenhagen. 3 people tell conflicting versions of a meeting that changed the outcome of World War II. Hey Dhiren, hi. I'm reading the Anatomy of Story. Hey, I just found out that Australia is now like 2 hours of 2 hours, not 3 hours. Time zone thing, whatever. I don't know. I forgot. Anyway, I'm in chapter 2, premise. Okay, learning how to create a story here. So, anyway, what? Copenhagen premise. Oh, closer to you too. Yeah. So Copenhagen, 3 people. Oh, you know what? Here is me procrastinating. So it took me like half an hour to read the first chapter, and then now I'm half hour reading second chapter, and then I got 11 chapters, and like how you're procrastinating from reading, you just turn back to how many chapters you have, what page you are in, and how many page you have left. I think I should I should do that. But so far I don't know, this book is okay lah. It's just telling you how to write a story. Oh well. Yes, I will read the book about procrastinating soon. Right, okay. Copenhagen, 3 people tells conflicting stories of a meeting that changed the outcome of World War II. Designing principle. Use the Heisenberg uncertainty principle from physics to explore the ambiguous morality of the man who discovers it. I think somewhere there lah. So, like, how about the badminton story is like maybe the inner workings of the relationship between the coach and the athlete. Maybe that's the designing principle lah. You get it lah, okay? A Christmas Carol. Premise: when 3 ghosts visits a stingy old man, he regains the spirit of Christmas. Designing principle: trace the rebirth of a man by forcing him to view his past, his present, and his future over the course of one Christmas Eve. It's a Wonderful Life. When a man prepares to commit suicide, an angel shows him what the world would be had he never been born. Designing principle: express the power of the individual by showing what a town, a nation would be if one man had never lived. Citizen Kane. Tell the life of story of a rich newspaper baron. Designing principle: use a number of storytellers to show that a man's life can never be known. So many movies I haven't watched yet. Okay. Step 5. Determine. Step 5. Determine your best character in the idea. Once you have locked on the designing principles of your story, it's time to focus on your hero. Who my hero? Determine your best character in the idea. Key point: always tell a story about your best character. Best does not mean nicest. It means the most fascinating, challenging, and complex. Even if the character isn't particularly likable. I cannot do that. I don't know why I'm reading. Best doesn't mean nicest. It means the most fascinating, challenging, and complex. Right? Even if that character isn't particularly likable, the reason you want to tell a story about your best character is that this is where your interests and the audience interests will inevitably go. You always want this character driving the action. The way you determine the best character embedded in the idea is to ask yourself this crucial question: who do I love? You can find the answer by asking yourself a few more questions. Do I want to see him act? Do I love the way he thinks? Do I care about the challenges he has to overcome? So say for example, I love the hero in the badminton story, right? So who do I love? I love the coach, not the athlete. I love the coach. Okay, a few more questions. Do I want to see him act? Yes, I want to see him develop that kid into the best badminton player. Do I love the way he thinks? Questionable. Maybe his methods of coaching the kid is questionable. Like Whiplash lah, something like that, right? Do I care about the challenges he has to overcome? pressure from the committee of the, like say for example, oh, you know, the whole country is hoping, oh, who's the next Lee Chong Wei or something like that, you know, the pressure is all on him, that kind of thing, you know. Do I care? Yeah. Trying to find the next like Lee Chong Wei or something like that. That's kind of interesting, right? If you can't find a character that you love implied in the story idea, move on to another idea. If you find him but he is not currently the main character, change the premise right now so that he is. If you are developing an idea that seems to have multiple main characters, you will have as many storylines as main characters, and you must find the best character for each storyline. Okay, that's interesting. Speaking of stories, I am still waiting for the release of your Melbourne original. Oh, the one in what square one is it? Argyle Square, is it? Second story. So it's the one that's part 2 lah. I need to read that, you know. I have it on my, I think I still have it on my phone, so I'm still like I think I need to develop part 2. College Square. Yeah lah, the one that you read lah, right? Yeah, Argyle. Hey Desmond, how are you, man? Yes, I'm reading a book. Do join in and read and listen to what Gentleman is going to serenade your Tuesday night into a profound and interesting insights into the anatomy of story. 22 steps to becoming a major storyteller. Yeah, you did a script read. You did a script read in 164. 164. Is it 164? Yeah. And then we were all there, and then how we connected the story into like different people, that kind of thing. It's so funny. Anyway, okay. Step 5, determining your best character in the idea. Okay. Step 6, get a sense of the central conflict. What is the central conflict? Okay, once you have an idea who will drive the story, you want to figure out what your story is about at the most essential level. That means determining the central conflict of the story. To figure out the central conflict, ask yourself, who fights whom over what? And answer the question in one succinct line. The answer to that is what your story is really about, because all conflict in the story will essentially boil down to this one issue. Issue or issue. The next 2 chapters will expand on this conflict in often complex ways, but you need to keep this one-line statement of conflict along with the designing principle in front of you at all times. Who fight who over what? To figure out the central conflict. If I'm talking about the badminton thing, right? It's like, is the coach fighting with the association over his or maybe it could be he is actually fighting maybe the father, the kid's father. He's fighting over the father over this kid because he's like being a father to him, but he's more like a coach. He's not like a father, but a father figure. So maybe the whole problem is not about the whole competition thing, but to the family. Or maybe that's not it. I think maybe the conflict is about who fights whom over what. The coach fighting either with the association or the family over him, over the athlete. Yeah, over the athlete lor. Like as if like the athlete is the product. Like it's just a product only, you know. It's like yeah, could be that. Okay, step 6. Get a sense of the central conflict. Step 7. Get a sense of the single cause and effect pathway. Every good organic story has a single cause and effect pathway. A leads to B, which leads to C, and so all the way to Z. And this is the spine of the story. So if you don't have the spine, you have too many spines. Your story will fall apart. We'll talk about multiple hero stories in a moment. Let's say you come up with this premise, okay? A man falls in love and fights his brother for control over a winery. Notice that this splits a premise with two cause and effect trajectories. One of the great advantages of using these techniques to develop your premise is that it's much easier to spot problems and find solutions when you've written only one line. Once you write a full story or script, the story problems feel like their set in is concrete. But when you've written only one sentence, you can make a simple change and turn a split premise into a single line, such as this. Through the love of a good woman, a man defeats his brother for the control of a winery. Okay, so this is the premise, right? A man falls in love and fights his brother for control over a winery. But you can change to this. Through the love of a good woman, a man defeats his brother for control of a winery. The trick is to finding a single cause and effect pathway is to ask yourself, what is my hero's basic action? Your hero will take many actions over the course of the story, but there should be one action that is most important, that unifies every other action the hero takes. That action is the cause and effect path. For example, let's go back to that one-line premise for Star Wars. When a princess falls into mortal danger, a young man uses his skills as a fighter to save her and defeat the evil forces of a galactic empire. In forcing ourselves to describe Star Wars in a single line, we see that the one action that unites all the myriad actions of the film is uses his skills as a fighter. Or take the case of The Godfather, an epic book and epic film. But again, if we work through the process, starting with reducing the story into a one-sentence premise, we can see the basic action clearly. The youngest son of a mafia family takes revenge on the man who shot his father and becomes the new godfather. Of all the action Michael takes in that story, the one action that connects them all, the basic action, is that he takes revenge. So, key point, if you are developing a premise with many main characters, each storyline must have a single cause and effect path. And all the storylines should come together to form a larger, all-encompassing spine. For example, in the Canterbury Tales, each traveler tells a story with a single spine, but the story are all part of a group, a microcosm of an English society that is traveling to Canterbury. Okay? Wait, so write down first. Get a sense of a single cause of it. Get a sense of a single cause and effect. Cause and effect pathways. So if I'm talking about the badminton story, right? So it's like in the process to search for greatness, a man. Wait, my mother calling. Hello? I'm in the live stream. Me. Oh, yeah, lo. You make everyone happy. Everyone happy. Yeah, you make everyone happy. Same thing again. My mom asking for grammar. You know, that's what mothers do. Call you to get the right grammars. And here I am reading a book. Get a sense of a single cause and effect pathway. Wait, so the badminton thing. In the road to success, a man finds a prodigy that will become the greatest badminton player in Malaysia or something like that. And what's the cause and effect? That I don't know. I have to really think about it. I'm just reading, but I have to think about it. 164. Yes, 164. Good times. Hello, auntie. Auntie, please like, subscribe. Mom, if you are watching this, please do like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. I know you did it already, but it's okay. I'm just saying. Alright. Step 8. Let's do this a little bit more sexy, huh? Step 8. Determining your hero's possible character change. After the designing principle, the most important thing to glean from your previous premise line is the fundamental character change of your hero. This is what gives the audience the deepest satisfaction, no matter what form the story takes, even when the character change is negative, as in The Godfather. Character change is what your hero experiences by going through his struggle. At the simplest level, that change could be represented as a three-part equation. Don't confuse this with a 3x structure. W times X equals C, where W stands for weakness, both psychologically and moral. A represents the struggle to accomplish the basic action in the middle of the story. And C stands for the changed person. In the vast majority of stories, a character with weaknesses struggles to achieve something and ends up changed, positively or negatively. As a result, the simple logic of a story works like this. How does the act of a struggling to do the basic action lead the character to change from W to C? Notice that A, the basic action, is the fulcrum. A character with certain weaknesses, when being put through a wringer of a particular struggle, is forged and tempered into a changed being. Oh my god, so complicated. What? The basic action should be the one action best able to force the character to deal with his weakness and change. So, W stands for weakness. Weakness, how do you times the struggle to accomplish the basic action in the middle of the... Okay, so the weakness times the struggle equals to a changed person. So the weakness of a person times the struggle, like what you need to accomplish, what the struggles that you have, and based on the weakness that you have, equals into a changed person lah, based on the story. This is the simple geometric of any story because it is the sequence of human growth. Human growth is very elusive, but it is real. It is what you, the writer, must express above everything else, or else show why it doesn't occur. The key to doing this is to start with the basic action and then go to the opposites of that action. This will tell you who your hero is at the beginning of the story, his weakness, and who is he at the end, how he has changed. So I think in terms of the badminton story, maybe the coach is like, there's a past to it, right? Like maybe the coach before that he was very defeated because his protege failed or like killed or something like that, and so now he has to train someone, and you know, it's like learning to become like a father again. Write your simple premise line. Okay, the step works like this. Write your simple premise line. Be open to modifying the premise line once you discover the character change. Determine the basic action of your hero over the course of the story. Come up with the opposites of A, the basic action, for both W, the hero weaknesses, psychologically and moral, and C, change person. Whoa, so many things. What? Okay. Number 8. Number 8. Determine your hero's change. Possible character change. So, simple premise line. Basic action. Opposites. For both the W, weakness, and then C, a changed person. Alright. Cool. Going to the opposites of the basic action is crucial because that's the only way that change can occur. If your hero weaknesses are similar to the basic action he will take during the story, he will simply deepen those weaknesses and remain who he is. Okay. So if your hero's weaknesses are similar to the basic action he will take during the story, he will simply deepen those weaknesses and remain who he is. That's quite sad, right? Write down a number of possible options for the hero's weaknesses and change. Just as there are a number of possibilities for developing your premise, there are also many options for both the weaknesses and the changed person your hero will become. For example, let's say that the basic action of your hero is to become an outlaw during the story. Starting with this basic action, you might come up with these opposites for possible weakness and change. Notice that each weakness and change is possible opposite of the basic action. An uptight handpicked man becomes involved in a gang of outlaws and gets a divorce. Weaknesses at the beginning: uptight handpicked man. Handpacked man. Basic action: becomes involved with a gang of outlaws and see a changed person getting a divorce. An uptight, haughty banker becomes involved with a gang of outlaws and gets aid to the poor. Weaknesses at the beginning: uptight, haughty banker. What? Basic action: becomes involved with a gang of outlaws. Changed person: gives aid to the poor. Okay, so a shy, timid man becomes involved with a gang of outlaws and gets drunk with fame. Weaknesses at the beginning: shy and timid man. Basic action: becomes involved with a gang of outlaws. Changed person: gets drunk with fame. Any of these are possible character changes that you can glean from an initial one-line premise about a man becoming an outlaw. Let's work through this technique for a couple of familiar stories. Okay, Star Wars, okay? So the premise: when a princess falls into mortal danger, a young man uses his skill as a fighter to save her and defeat the evil forces of a galactic empire. Weaknesses at the beginning: naive, impetuous, paralyzed, unfocused, lacking confidence. Basic action: uses his skills as a fighter. Changed person: self-esteem, a place among the chosen few, a fighter for good. Luke's initial weaknesses are definitely not the qualities of a fighter, but when constantly forced to use skills as a fighter, he is strengthened into a confident fighter for the good. Okay, The Godfather. Premise: the youngest son of a mafia family takes revenge on the man who shot his father and becomes the new Godfather. The weaknesses at the beginning: unconcerned, afraid, mainstream, legitimate, separate from the family. Basic action: takes revenge, changed person, tyrannical, absolute ruler of the family. The Godfather is a perfect example of why you want to go to the opposites of the basic action to determine the weakness and the change of your hero. If Michael begins the story as a vengeful man, taking revenge on the man who shot his father will only make him sin much more of the same. There's no character change. But what if he starts off the opposite of vengeful, an unconcerned, afraid, mainstream, legitimate man separate from his mafia family, who then takes revenge, could become tyrannical, absolute ruler of the family? This is a radical change, no doubt, but it's a totally believable one. Note that when you end with using this technique, all are only possible character changes for your story. Premise work, especially concerning character change, is extremely tentative. Be open to considering different character changes as you work through the writing process. We will explore this crucial story element in much greater detail in the next 2 chapters. Okay, how many more to go? Oh, 3 more pages only. Hiya. Step 9. Figure out who the hero's possible moral choice. Figure out the hero's possible moral choice. The central theme of the story is often crystallized by a moral choice the hero must take. typically near the end of the story. Theme is your view on the proper way to act in a world. Okay, so the central theme of a story is often crystallized by a moral choice the hero must take, typically near the end of the story. So say for example like Batman in the Dark Knight, right? He has to kill Harvey Dent to save Gotham or something like that, right? Theme is your will of the proper way to act in the world. It is your moral vision, and it is one of the main reasons you are writing your story. Wow, this one hard to think. Theme is the best expressed through the structure of the story, through what I call the moral argument. This is where you, the author, makes a case for how to live, not through philosophical arguments, but through the actions of the character going through after a goal. For details, see chapter 5, moral argument. Okay, that's like chapter 5. Probably the most important step in that argument is the final moral choice you give to the hero. So, in the sense of that badminton character, does the coach accepts the athlete as his son, or he's just gonna reject? Like at the final moment, which is like the final of the game, right? Is he gonna be there for him, or is he just gonna stay away or something like that? Whatever. Alright. So a lot of writers makes the mistake of giving their hero a fake choice. A fake choice is between a positive and a negative. For example, you may force your hero to choose between going to prison and winning the girl. The outcome is obvious. To be a true choice, your hero must either select one of the two possible outcomes, or on a rare occasion, avoid one of the two negative outcome. Make the options as equal as possible, with one seeming only slightly better than the other. So one is that if he accepts the athlete as his son, he gets to feel love again, right? But if he doesn't accept, he's just wanting to guard his heart again. He just doesn't want to go through the hard pain of losing another son or something like that, you know. So either choices also is fine, right? Yeah. Hey, this could be a good story, right? About the whole badminton. And it just came out only. Like what? Anyway. Last 2 pages. Okay, make the options. A classic example of choice between two positive is between love and honor. A Farewell to Arms. The hero chooses love. In Maltese Falcon and almost all detective story, the hero chooses honor. The detective story, honor. Okay. Again, notice that this technique is about finding possible moral choices. That's because the choice you come up with now may change completely by the time you have written the full story. This technique simply forces you to start thinking in practical terms about your theme from the very beginning of the writing process. Okay, step 10. Gauge the audience appeal. Gauge the audience appeal. When you've done all your premise work, ask yourself one final question. Is this single storyline unique enough to interest a lot of people besides me? This is the question of popularity, of commercial appeal. You must be ruthless in answering it. If you look at your premise and realize that the only people who will want to see your story are you and your immediate family, I would strongly caution you against using that premise as the basis for a full story. Okay. Oh, just me and my family. Why only me and my mom who likes it. Oh, really? Hey, that could be a film. That could be my movie. You should always write first for yourself. Write what you care about, but you shouldn't write only for yourself. One of the biggest mistakes writers make is to fall into the trap of either or thinking. Either I write what I care about, or I write what will sell. This is a false distinction. Because the truth is that writing for yourself is a way to express your thoughts, and writing for others is a way to express your thoughts. Both are valid, born of the old romantic notion of writing in a garret or suffering for your art. Suffering for your art. Sometimes you get an idea that you simply must write, or you get a great idea and you have no idea whether an audience will like it. But remember, you will have many more ideas in your life that you can possibly develop as full stories. Always try to write something that you care about and also think will appeal to an audience. Your writing should mean a lot to you personally, but writing for an audience makes it a lot easier to do what you love. Interesting. Okay. Okay, so creating your premise. Writing exercise 1. Premise. Write down your premise in one sentence. Okay, so this is the last section already. So this is just exercises. So from the first chapter just now, we didn't really have any exercises. I think it's mainly just giving you a introduction as to what story is, and there are so many. It's like just an introduction only lah. But this first chapter premise is very sort of like a thing that you need to do lah before you even write a story. So premise. Right now, I think it's about 2 hours already, so we're about to end actually. But right now, if you don't get anything out of this stream and you want to get something out of it, you should get this. All right. So it's more like a writing exercise that you can think about. So premise. Write down your premise in one sentence. Ask yourself, is this premise line has the makings of a story that could change your life? So premise is like, say for example, I'm thinking of this like badminton story, right? Yeah, for me the one sentence is that this premise is a coach is a suffering coach. How to say? Like a struggling coach finds a new protege to become the best badminton player in Malaysia or something like that lah, right? And ask yourself, is this premise line has the making of a story that could change your life? So my life. So does it change me? So like personally, maybe yeah. So like one of it is to write down your wish list, write down your premise list, and try to explore yourself lah, right? So for me, I have to like explore myself and like think about what are the things I want to talk about, what are the sort of personal stories that I want to share. So maybe change my life is like maybe finding a father figure or something like that. That could be like a very good story, Wish list and premise list. Write down your wish list and your premise list. Study them together to identify the core elements of what you care about and enjoy. So for me, I enjoy badminton, so maybe that's a good story to go for. Possibilities. Look for what is possible in the premise. Write down options. So possibilities can be like, oh, maybe this is about this guy trying to become the best Malaysians, or this could be just the focus is like a coach and athlete sort of relationship, or it could be like more of a father-son sort of relationship going on, or this could be like a whole different thing about organizations and government and whatnot, and it's like the underdog, trying to defeat the world, something like that. So possibilities. Story challenges and problems. Describes as many of the story challenges and problems that are unique to your idea as you can think of. So the challenges and problems, maybe I can say like challenges is like for the coach, maybe the coach is like thinking or give some backstory lah. So maybe the coach is like, oh, I lost I trained someone before, but the someone died because of a stupid car accident, and then now I cannot teach anymore. Or this guy is like, I want to be the best, but I'm not the best because I'm just a normal guy and don't have the physics or something like that, So many problems lah. Or maybe this guy doesn't have a father, or like the only way he can like really find comfort is in badminton, and so how he found like a coach that can be his father figure or something like that. Or it could be like a government thing where sometimes nowadays the society is trying to find like who is the next Lee Chong Wei or something like that, and this guy could be the one, so all pressure is between these two. But you know, how they come up with, how they go about this pressure or something like that. Yeah, story challenges and problems. Designing principle. Come up with the designing principle of your story idea. Remember that this principle describes some deeper process or forms in which the story will play out in a unique way. So yeah, designing principle could be like a father finding a son or something like that, you know, or the fate of Malaysian sports lies in this upcoming athlete or something like that. Best character. Determine the best character in the idea. Make that character the hero of your premise. For me, could be the coach or could be the guy. But for me, I think it's the coach lah. You know, the hero of the story. Like he is the one that we identify with or something like that. Conflict. Ask yourself, who is the hero fighting and what is he fighting about? Maybe he's fighting himself. Maybe he is just like thinking like, or maybe he's fighting against his family or something like that, or fighting against the Malaysian organization, fighting society. Basic action. Find a single cause and effect pathway by identifying a basic action that your hero will take in the story. So the basic action that he will take is to be a coach again, you know, to be a coach to this upcoming athlete. Moral choice. List a moral choice your hero may take near the end of the story. Make sure it's difficult but plausible choice. So just now I said it was choosing between like accepting the person as his son or stepping away and not going through another heartbreak again, just in case if that you know, the kid or something like that lah. But I think he would just go for the kid because the kid is trying to find for him and he is also trying to find for his own. So that would be a good end of the story lah, I guess. Character change. Figure out the possible character change for the hero, starting with the basic action and then going to the opposite of the basic action to determine his weakness at the beginning and his change at the end. So basic action is that he's becoming a coach. His weakness is his own heart. He doesn't want to train because he has lost someone in the past. So with these two together, he becomes a changed person at the end where he accepts this athlete as his son. So audience appeal. Ask yourself if your premise is likely to appeal to a wider audience. If not, go back to the drawing board. So, do you guys think this is a good idea? Hello? I'm talking to you. Is this a good idea? Maybe it's not. Maybe it is. You know, who knows? So it's time for you guys to write your own stories and figure out all of these points. Okay, so let's look at Tootsie so you can see how you might work through the premise process. Last page, Tootsie by Larry Gilbert and Muriel Zeber, and story by Don Miguel and Larry Gilbert, 1982. Premise: when an actor can't get work, he disguises himself as a woman and gets a role in a TV series only to fall in love with one of the female members of the cast. This is the premise of Tootsie lah. Possibilities: you could take a funny look at the modern dating dance, but also dissect the deep immorality that underlies how men and women act towards each other in the most intimate part of their lives. Story challenges: how do you show the effect of men's immoral actions against a woman without seeming to attack one entire gender while making the other gender look innocent? How do you show the effect of men's immoral actions against women without seeming to attack one entire gender while making the other gender look innocent? So this is one of the challenges. Problems: how do you make a man believable as a woman? Weave several man-woman plots together and make them one. End each plotline successfully and make an emotionally satisfying love story while using a number of fast techniques that place the audience in a superior position. Designing principle: force a male chauvinist to live as a woman. Place the story in an entertainment world to make the disguise more believable. Best character: Michael split between dressing as both as a man and a woman. It can be a physical and comical expression of the extreme contradiction within his own character. Conflict: Michael fights Julie, Ron, Les, and Sandy about love and honesty. Basic action: male hero impersonates a woman. Character change: the weakness, Michael is arrogant, a liar, and a womanizer. He is a changed person by pretending to be a woman. Michael learns to become a better man and capable of real love. Moral choice: Michael sacrifices his lucrative acting job and apologizes to Julie for lying to her. So, that's it for today. Premise and just the introduction. The next part would be talking about the 7 key steps of story structure. Chapter 3. So 2 hours, and hopefully this one not another. No, I think this one will be another 2 hours. After that will be character. Whoa, character has a lot of pages. What the heck? Yeah, that will take a lot of time. $107. This one how many? So now I'm at 39, and this story structure finishes at 55. Okay, and then 56 to 107. Oh. That's for the next stream lah. Okay. So go home. A little bit of homework. Write a little bit of premise. Self-explore a bit. Write down everything. Write down what you about your life. Trying to find the similarities. Find the like some things that really pop out. You know, and that could be your story already. Do some what ifs. Ask lah, like, oh, what if this goes to this? What if this goes to this? And that could be your story. Wow. How is that? How is this whole reading thing? Are you guys enjoying it? If you're not enjoying it, then I don't do anymore lor. As simple as that. Then I can, stop reading and I won't read again lor. But no lah, read lah. Just read lah. I haven't been reading a lot, so it takes a long time to. Right, another 2 minutes, then I'll end the stream. That's about it for today. So next week, this week. This week I am doing a video on this TLC lah. I don't know. There's this couple, but there's like so many different videos. So I really need to like pinpoint like which is the start of the show, which is the end of the show. Then you all can like know what's gonna happen. So I need to do that. But yeah, I think that's for this week lah. It's mainly on that fiance show kind of thing. So I'm not really sure whether am I gonna do that or not. But I'll try lah. Other than that, there's nothing much. I'm still continuing to do with this reading thing until I finish this book. And then I'll see how if I want to continue doing 2 videos a week or not, because 2 videos sometimes it takes out a lot from me from a week, So now I'm like, okay, so say for example on normal basis lah, okay, Tuesdays I'll usually do on a live stream, and then I'll wait until like maybe Thursday or Friday to film the video, and then release out on Saturday or Sunday. But last week I didn't really do it, so I took out my Monday to do it, and yeah, that took a lot of time as well. So yeah, see how, but I think so far still manageable lah, 2 videos. Live stream is a bit easier, so I can just turn on the live stream and then I can just stream all my way. 2 hours, but at least like the weekend video, that one is like it takes a bit of time because I need to edit everything, and I want to improve on my editing also, because the videos doesn't like it's not really that engaging. So I want to make my videos a bit more engaging and try to be a bit more how to say, yeah, just a bit more engaging lah. You know how I've been seeing like how PewDiePie or like Jacksepticeye or the other YouTubers lah, they all are doing their videos, right? It's so engaging, and I'm just trying to find a way how to like improve on my editing and just making it a bit more engaging, and also not too long lah, because too long also then people won't really want to watch. So I think like last week one, I think 12 minutes is quite good. Like it's quite short and funny, and I think it's good enough for like a lunch break, the kind of thing, you know, like 15 minutes or just below 20 minutes lah. I think at the end of the day, if I were to try making like 3 videos a week, I want to like keep one video just talking about movies and TV shows that I've been watching, and another one is just on like things that I want to try, kind of thing, you know, reacting to movies and stuff like that. And then another is the live stream lah. 3 videos lah. I think not yet lah. Right now I'm just getting used to that, just 2 videos only. So making 1 videos like at a time, it was like already hard. So now trying 2 videos, I don't know, I like the live stream more. So yeah, I like the live stream more. So the normal videos I just have to like pull through and just be good at it lah. Once I'm good at it, I think should be okay. It's quite fast. So yeah, I'll talk a little bit more before I leave. After this, maybe I don't know, maybe I'll read another book, or I'll do my Millennium Falcon. Millennium Falcon is a very big project, so I'm a little bit hesitant about it. Or I'm thinking of doing like a gaming kind of thing also. So maybe like let's play a game together. So I haven't been playing my Switch for a very long time already, so maybe I'll start like playing one of those indie games and just, you know, stream like playing games and stuff like that. That could be fun. So maybe after reading this book, I'll do like a play a game kind of thing, you know. So just chilling, watching me play game. That could be fun. Maybe that's the next one. For next month, I don't know. I haven't really thought about it yet. But this month, yeah, just reacting to videos. Actually, last week one, finding videos of funny dogs and cats is a bit tough. I don't know. For me, I just like scroll through Instagram, scroll through sometimes like the reels, right? Like you can find a lot of funny videos on Facebook sometimes. But when I want to research on it, right, all those compilation videos, it's like very hard to find, and it's not funny at all. So I have to like edit it, and like, you know, those that I actually laughed, then I'll put on my video lah. Those I don't laugh one, then like what for? You see me just like the one, right? You just want to see me laugh also, like, so yeah. But I think, I don't know, maybe next month, I don't know what else. What am I'm still thinking lah. I'm still thinking what to do next month. So I'll see how. Maybe talk about sports. Maybe talk about the gadgets that I have. What are the sort of gears I have. Maybe that could be a good one. Next month is just giving reviews like MKBHD like that, you know. This is the new iPhone 12. This is the new camera, or this is the new Sony, something like that lah. I don't know. But anyway, I think that's about it for this live stream. I'll end it there. 2 hours and 20 minutes. Much better than 4 hours. No more 4 hours lah. I think 4 hours are tired for me, tired for you. You all will be sleeping and don't want lah. Just make it a bit shorter lah. Okay. Then those people in Australia can watch, like Dhiren, they all also, you all can watch. Since now like 2 hours of time difference, can watch lah. Oi, 1:30 only now. sleep lah. I also like 11:30 already. It's like time to wind down a little bit and sleep. Okay. Anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me in this live stream. Thank you, Dhiren. Thank you, Desmond. And thank you to my baby. Thank you to, I don't know, maybe my mom. My mom is watching also. Yeah, my mom. Good. Yes, good. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. Good night, everyone. And if you're watching this in the morning, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good night. And I'll see you guys in the next video coming up this weekend. And then the next stream, chapter 3 and 4, if I'm not mistaken. Alright. So, see you guys. And till then,